to be really relevant in crafting a Christian view, we should start with exactly those things that people are asking about. For example, there's an unprecedented number of movements these days for rights, for equality, for freedom, and yet the dominant worldviews of our day, as we have seen, deny the reality of freedom.
Yeah.
They give no basis for rights or dignity. So where did the idea of equal rights even come from? You know, back in the 19th century, Friedrich Nietzsche said it came from Christianity. He said it comes from the concept of the equality of all souls before God, and that this was really the origin of all theories of equal rights.
Right.
The contemporary atheist, Richard Rorty, also said the same thing. He said it was the idea of universal human rights was completely novel, and is completely novel historically speaking, and that it rested on the biblical teaching that we are all created in the image of God.
And you see that in our founding documents are just explicit with that, which is nice. Yeah.
Exactly. What I like about the Rorty quote is then he goes on to say, you know, that he realized he's a Darwinist, he's an atheist, he's an evolutionist, and he said, I realize in the Darwinian worldview there is no basis for human rights, because in the struggle for existence, the strong win and the weak are left behind.
That's right.
And so he says, where do I get the concept of human rights?
Yeah. I'm
happy to reach over and borrow it from our Judeo-Christian heritage. And he calls himself a freeloading atheist.
Yeah, well, they are all that in some measure, because in order for them to maintain their genuine humanity, they are going to have to step out of their worldview and take things from our worldview. And this is a great example of that. I think people don't realize that all rights claims are moral claims. They are claims about how we ought to behave towards other creatures who have intrinsic value. None of these notions, objective morality, intrinsic value, human rights, have any foundation of any sort in a materialistic or naturalistic worldview, as Rorty has pointed out.
One of my favorite philosophers these days is John Gray. He's a British philosopher, and I like him only because he's kind of a modern Nietzsche. He really is trying to be totally honest about the implications of materialism. And he, too, has said, and this is a quote, he says, Darwin has shown us that we are animals. So the idea of free will does not come from science. Its origins are in religion, and not just any religion, but the Christian faith that atheists love to rail against. So he says, any concept of human dignity, any concept of humans having a special status is a secular version of Christianity. So what this means is that there are elements of a Christian worldview that is so compelling and so appealing that even non-Christians keep trying to claim them.
I love
they're all freeloading atheists.
Right.
Anywhere you turn, you'll find this dynamic of freeloading atheists, people who want what only Christianity has to give. And if we focus on those areas, then we will craft an apologetic that's very positive and that focuses on the very things that secular people sense that they need and are reaching out to grab from the Christian perspective. By focusing on those, we can show that Christianity is not only true, but also very appealing.